Okay, I will just start by saying good morning. Thank you for allowing me to join you on this bright, beautiful day. And thank you, Nitzan Chen, for inviting me to be here. It seems like an amazing media gathering. This is the first day I'm joining you. I understand that you've been here for a couple of days and you already know a lot. So we'll try to keep it up more interesting and maybe feisty, a little bit more political. I'm a political correspondent. My name is Tal Schneider. Tal, it's a T-A-L. Any of you who have read the scripts, it's the meaning of the word dew, D-E-W, but that's the word Tal in Hebrew, and my last name is Schneider. I'm a political correspondent and a diplomatic correspondent for Israeli business newspaper Globes. It's actually the oldest business paper in Israel. It's a little bit Wall Street Journal inclined by agenda, but it's the pink sheet like the Financial Times. So it's a good one. And I actually was DC correspondent for many years for Israeli newspaper Ma'ariv, so I know a bit about what's going on in Washington from the Bush years, Obama years, and obviously the Trump years, covering campaigns there and here. Politics is my bit. We're going to be joined today by MK from the Labour Party, Chilik Bar, or maybe I should say Yechiel Bar. Chilik is from the Labour Party, who used to be the biggest and the ruling party of this country from the founding days, but it sits in the opposition in the last couple of years. Chilik was, before he joined the Knesset, he was a councilman for the city of Jerusalem. And in the current Knesset, he is the deputy speaker. And also, he was the secretary general of the Labour Party. So, Chilik, Mr. Bar. אתה לא רוצה שהוא יעלה לבמה? Okay. And also, we have Tzipi Chotobeli here. So, are we going to start off with her? So we have the agenda here is shifting any minute. That is lovely. I like them both. Okay, Nitzan, please.
I'm going to take this opportunity just for 60 seconds
yes.
to explain to our audience what's the difference between Trump, president, we are going to the president of Israel, Rivlin.
That's a good idea.
About 1 hour.
Okay.
What's the difference between the political system in Israel and the political system in the United States?
Okay, I will do that gladly. First, I envy you that you're going to meet our president because he's such a lovely person and a great personality for the Israeli people, inspirational person, really. Rivlin has been for many years in the Likud party, so he was a political figure. Almost all of Israel's presidents have been political figures, other than the first, maybe the first or the second presidents who were scientists. And Rivlin grew up in the Likud, grew up in Jerusalem. He's very much a Jerusalemite personality, and he has no executive authority. He sits in a ceremonial job only, except for one little thing that Israel bylaws allow him is to announce who is going to build the coalition when you have an elections and you have the parties are running. There's one winner. For example, Prime Minister Netanyahu won with 30 seats. So the president can decide who will form the coalition. And now we have one of the nicest members of the executive branch. She's also an MK, but she is now, in the last couple of years, since 2015, work in the executive branch. Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister Tzipi Chotobeli. Hi. Mrs. Chotobeli is serving as Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister since 2015, since the last elections. So it's been almost 3 years now. She is a Likud member for many years and a lawyer by her scholar and a lawyer by her education, sorry. And Chotobeli has also gained a prominent name for being a TV commentator. She was one of the brightest talking heads coming from the right wing, brought into the media scene something fresh because back then she was very young, very opinionated, very ultra-orthodox, and very different from the scene that we used to see on our TV sets, mostly for people that are ultra-Orthodox, males, all there. So she brought something totally fresh and succeeded very quickly in the Likud to rise up to the highest ranks, very close to the ear of the prime ministers, and I think traveling extensively all around the world. So Mrs. Khotoveli, please join us. Sit close to me. I like you to be close to me. We're good friends as well. You want me to sit over there? Okay. I will do that.
Shalom.
Hi, shalom. Hello, nice to have you here. Very exciting, and I want to thank MK Bar who stepped aside and gave Mrs. Khotoveli to be the first speaker. Would you like to open? We have broadcasters and reporters from all around the world working in media, Christians media. Would you like to make an opening statement, maybe with respect to the relationship between the two, the Jewish world and the Christian world?
I'm so happy to be here with you this morning. I'm really delighted from this. I think it's an opportunity. Tal, I really enjoy giving interviews to those channels, not just because we just happen to agree about most of the things, but actually I think that you're bringing the story from a totally different perspective. And I think you bring in depth to the story of this land. I had the chance to meet many of the studios that are broadcasting from Jerusalem, and I must say that the people that think that the issues of Israel are territorial are just missing the whole picture. The reason that this place happens to attract so many journalists, there were times in history that the three most popular places in the world where all the journalists were Washington, Moscow, and Jerusalem. And the reason is not because there is a territorial conflict, because there are 200 places in the world where there are territorial conflict. The reason is in one word: Jerusalem, the holiest place in the world, the place that people from all religions are related to, but it was only the capital of the Jewish entity, and now, thank God, the Jewish state. And I really think that you are bringing the real depth of this story. And I think this is what makes you so relevant. And I think since Trump started giving interviews in those channels, it's going to be much more popular. So this is what I want to say today. Thank you so much for being here. And I think it's going to become a tradition. Thank you.
So before you entered, I promised the crowd that we want to be a little bit more feisty, because they've been here already for 4 days and they know a lot about Israel and about Jerusalem. But we are doing a little bit more of a politics and maybe controversial issues. So you travel around the world, and one of your difficult jobs is to counter the BDS, or maybe counter Israel's policy with respect to the BDS, how to work on that. In a recent trip that I've been to UCLA, I've heard from Jewish students at Hillel, actually, that some of the BDS movement has actually, lost its power, and they felt that sometimes there's no need to be so how do you say that, aggressive with them, because the Israeli media actually does a service for them for bringing the issue all the time. And what do you think? Are we at the down? Are we at the end of this, or we still have a lot to fight? And what do you do in your position to counter that?
I think that the industry of lies, this is really our mission, to fight the industry of lies. The BDS is part of this industry of lies. And the industry of lies is using terminology such as human rights, in order to do everything that is the opposite of human rights. When you're supporting terror organizations, when you're supporting powers that are empowering ideas like women have no rights, Those are the things that we really need to fight. But from a very strange reason, some liberal people are seeing themselves as people that actually, from very good intentions, by the way. I'm sure that part of it is from not having the real information of what is happening here. This is why I think, first of all, BDS is not about economic boycott, because Israel is flourishing, our economic system is flourishing. International investments in Israel throughout those years that the BDS movement is active, the investments just doubled themselves. Our relations with Asia has grown, our relations now with Africa and South America. Everything really here, when it comes to the economic basis, is definitely being in another planet for the BDS. And you know something, as much as Israel is going to continue to be such an amazing country that brings basically solutions to the 21st century's problems, I'm sure that the economics will keep on growing and keep on flourishing. The real problem is the narrative.
I'm just making sure everybody knows what BDS is, right? Okay. For a minute I was like, maybe we're talking to ourselves here.
So the idea to boycott Israel has failed dramatically. It has failed during the 50s and the 60s with the Arab boycott, but it's definitely failing now. But the real problem is the fact that BDS is spreading lies about Israel. And this is our job and duty, to just fight those lies and tell out the truth. And I must say that the people here, they are so they're so faithful and loyal to the idea of telling the truth of this amazing place.
Since everybody here are reporters and media people and they need stories, would you kindly tell us of a story, something that happened through one of Israel's embassies or diplomatic missions around the world in the recent couple of months that you can, take from your experience and tell us how did you, in your title, how did you counter that? What means could you have given the local ambassador or the local consul? Because sometimes as reporters, we hear from the local consuls that they don't have money, that they don't have budget to fight those things off. So how do you, day to day?
Definitely with technology, the money issue is important. It's always important. But today we have more tools to deliver messages. So I think new media has done a dramatic change in the way we spread the truth. You gave me a challenge. I need to think about... תגידי לי בעברית רגע, איזה סוג של אירוע?
יש לך איזשהו אירוע מהתקופה האחרונה שאת זוכרת? מה עשיתם? איזו אפליקציה שהשתמשתם? איזה מהלך שעשיתם בקונסוליה מקומית? כדי באמת לתת את המענה המיידי.
I think that when it comes to the people on the ground that are doing our work in the foreign ministry, they have on a daily basis those kind of confrontation. I'm going to go in November to a campus tour in America. I'm going to be the first politician to do actually a campus tour.
A campus tour?
In duty, yes.
So you have an app or something that's going into a campus tour in the States?
Yes, I'm going in November, and the idea is really to challenge all the myths around what is happening here. Because most of the time, let me give you my experience. The questions I've been asked are definitely being based on ignorance. People don't know how small this place is to begin with. People have this image that Israel is so big because it's a real big power, but it has nothing to do to the fact we are so small. People have no idea about the Palestinian history. One of the things I'm always surprised to realize that most of the people think there was a Palestinian state for many years and Israel just occupied a Palestinian state, which of course it's a big lie because there was never in history a Palestinian state. And there is a reason, because most of the people that call themselves today Palestinians, they came because of the Zionist movement, the people that came from all around the Arab world. I think one of the things I'm working on, and this is my big thing in the last 6 months, is the issue of UNRWA, the whole idea of the refugee issue. For many years, people are supporting the Palestinians. They're saying, okay, there is an issue of refugees. But when you think about the word refugees, those are people that the international law is defining them as people that were saved after a war. The war happened 70 years ago. And the reason it happened was because the Arab world refused to accept the idea of a partition plan. So they refused to have the idea of a Jewish state next to an Arab state. And now they would like to be a fifth generation of refugees. So we need to fight this narrative, because this narrative is really the obstacle to
but
peace.
if you talk about UN institutions, and I had a breaking story this week, but I would like to talk about it. But first, UNRWA. Is there any proceeding, or something on the grounds that you're doing to claim the UN to behave differently?
Yes, we are speaking to America and to all the other countries that are donating to UNRWA, because UNRWA doesn't stand alone. It's based on money that is funded from different countries. And we're asking them to reform the mandate of UNRWA. That's the idea.
To reform or to cancel?
No, to reform, because we don't think that UNRWA should be about refugees. If you want to bring humanitarian aid, you can bring humanitarian aid to whoever you want, as long as it doesn't deal with terror. This is also an important thing. We need to make sure that they're not supporting terrorism, not using their schools, like we saw in the last military operation of Israel in Gaza. They used the UNRWA schools in order to hide military abilities and
Would you wish the United States to behave with respect to UNRWA in a similar manner that they just announced a couple of days ago with respect to the Human Rights Council? I don't know. I'm sure everybody knows that the United States withdrawn from UNESCO. Sorry. Would you expect something similar on that front?
No, because the way we see it, we don't want to see chaos at those places where there were schools of UNRWA. We want to see schools that educate children to peace, and not to see children that are being educated on the idea that they need to go back to Tzfat, to Lod, to Akko, to Jerusalem, to all those places in Israel. This is what we would like to see. We want to see a reform in the textbooks. We want to see that those children are having the idea they're not living where they live, unless they want to live to a different place in the world. I'll give you a story. I was meeting my British colleague, and he was visiting a girls' school in Lebanon. And those young girls, I was asking him, where do you live?
Where?
בלבנון. הוא ביקר מחנה פליטים של אונר"א בלבנון.
In Lebanon.
Yes.
Okay.
And he was asking the young girls, where do you learn? Where are you from? And they said, we are from Tzfat. And he was quite shocked, because he said, those girls have never been to Tzfat. They don't even know where it is. But they're being raised on the idea that they belong to Israel because they're refugees. I think those kind of things, they realize that this is absurd.
What concrete steps can Israel take with respect to UNRWA?
As I said, UNRWA is based on countries that are contributing their money to this organization. In order to make sure that the money will get to the right purpose, they need to change the idea. This is not a refugee area. This is not refugee school. This is not... The word refugees shouldn't be related to UNRWA. That's the idea. We need to change the name. We need to change the concept.
I want to move to the Human Rights Council, which I just got confused because my mind is already there. They just issued a blacklist, and maybe you have seen the story in the last couple of days. They actually sent Bezeq, the Israeli biggest infrastructure company, a letter of they want to include Bezeq in their list of businesses that are working in the occupied territories, because Bezeq has infrastructures and has locations in actually here in Eastern Jerusalem and everywhere in the country. And Bezeq issued a fierce statement, but it actually took the Foreign Affairs Ministry by surprise. You didn't like it that much that the Bezeq CEO put that out there, because you were afraid for other companies to, do it the same, take it out publicly. So what do you think about human rights?
It's very clear that when you're using your organization as a political organization, you're losing your credibility. And what they're trying to do now is definitely not part of their political ability. When you're thinking about the Human Rights Council, what it was made for, it was about abolishing human rights around the world. So instead of taking this important role and actually go after places where you see that human rights are not being respected, they're going to Judea and Samaria, places where Jews and Arabs work together, and they want to harm that. Isn't it ridiculous? Think about it. Those people that are creating jobs to the Palestinians. The amazing thing, let me describe it this way. If those companies are not going to work in Judea and Samaria, Israel's economy, nothing's going to happen. But the Palestinians, where are they going to work? In the amazing economy and the industry they created? There is no Palestinian industry and Palestinian places to all the Palestinians that want to work. They want to work with Israel. They want to work in Israel because they know that the opportunities here are greater. Not corruption, like in the Palestinian Authority. Not this horrible idea of taking international funds and actually sponsoring terrorist families as part of their budget. Those are the things that are happening at the Palestinian Authority. So how exactly do they help to the future of the Palestinians when they are harming their economy?
As we all know, human rights is just a fake name for an organization that doesn't do human rights. But does it serve Israel to ignore it, or should Israel respond to whatever they're doing? Maybe should Israel put forward a request to change its name to?
We're not ignoring anything. We're definitely active, but there are many ways to be active. I just want to mention that the United States of America really doesn't like the fact that the UN is using all his power in order to, time after time, go against one small and very successful, democratic, vibrant democracy that we have here, that is Israel. I really think we're not ignoring, and we're very active about this issue.
I just want to ask you a little bit of your, place in the Likud. You are younger than the most. You are more ultra-orthodox than most.
That is absolutely.
You encountered in your personal life a lot of. You were chairwoman. For you who don't know, Mrs. Hotebelli was the chairwoman of the Committee for Gender Equality. As a political person, how do you handle the difficult life that we live in? That you have to be both ultra-orthodox and a woman in a men's world.
I must say that being ultra-Orthodox is definitely a benefit in my world, and I will share with you all the benefits that it brings. The only challenge I really have is not seeing my two little girls. So this is really the only challenge.
What is the challenge? I'm sorry.
Not seeing my two little girls as a mother. This is really the biggest challenge I experience in politics. The fact that it has long hours, long traveling, and this is part of...
But we've seen through your Facebook page that you take them along on your Far East trip, or at least some of them. And
I tried once.
Bring along the father as well to help.
I took them once to Vietnam, and we call it the Second Vietnam War. So... So we didn't try that since then, and now we have two. When I took my girl, it was just one, and it was very easy. And now they have their kindergartens and everything. So, but I want to touch this point of being ultra-Orthodox. Let me share with you a political moment that we saw yesterday. The chairman of Labour Party, for many years, the secular left-wing party in Israel, is now trying to change and reform the party. And one of the things he's bringing to his conferences is rabbis to speak before the conference starts. And this is something that is very common in the Likud. You speak, you quote things from the Bible. You're speaking about the Jewish holidays. This is something that's very common in Likud conferences, where I'm coming from. And now this labor leader that used to be part of Likud party is trying to bring this environment to Labour Party. And people are quite shocked because they're saying, where are you taking us to? And he says that this is where the future of Israel is going.
Are you joining the labor?
No.
Do we have a headline here? Because you are talking about him, and I'm just like, I'm thinking maybe you are in your way over there.
Let me explain. What I'm trying to say is that people now understand, from Labour Party, from middle parties like Yair Lapid, that the future of Israel is based on identity. And the future of Israel is based on being tied to the Jewish heritage. And people that are trying to create, as I'm always saying, we're not Australia or America that speaks Hebrew. We definitely are part of the Western society, but we have our added value as a Jewish society. We have our Jewish values, we have our Jewish moralities, and it's all based on the Jewish heritage. And people that are trying to disconnect themselves from this are losing the people of Israel. This is why all the people today are trying to become as if they were religious, traditional, all those words, in order to win the voters. But I still think the voters are going to go to the source.
I think we're gonna finish it with one more question, and I'm gonna try to squeeze in something more political as well. Maybe I'll get a headline. So I'm hearing from you appreciation to the Labour Party. It's good that you enter, Mr. Bar, because she was just hailing and praising the Labour new
I didn't say
chairman.
That. All I said
almost
is
joining into the Labour. She said he bringing in
okay,
rabbis.
Look at fake news at the moment. This is what is happening here.
But
this is fake news.
But my question to you, we are not fake news, we're face news. No, I'm just kidding. Everything is on Facebook those days. But my question to you, would you envision, and just please take aside for a minute your prime minister, just let's talk about you. Would you want and would you envision for the next Knesset, the 21st Knesset, which we don't know yet, probably going to start off on 2015, for the Likud and the Labour to sit together after so many years of rift and fights? Is it something that you think that is possible?
If Labour Party is adopting our values, of course we'll be happy to share with them a government. But this means they're not Labour anymore, and they're in quite of identity crisis. So I think that it's serious, but I think that it's a good thing that your chairman is saying that he's not going to take settlers from Judea and Samaria, from the place where the Jewish history is. I'm very happy that you're bringing more tradition to your party. The only thing is, it needs to change also the MKs in order to have them fit to this whole agenda.
Change the voters.
But this is a different story.
And then change the voters.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Hotobelli,
really
for joining us this morning. Quite interesting stuff. And now, And now I want to bring over Mr. Bar. Please join us. Okay. So I actually presented Mr. Bar half an hour ago, and I will say it again, but first I want to thank you for stepping aside and giving the lady the chance to be first, because I know you were here already and we had, as a conference, a little bit of a mix-up in the times, so I appreciate your patience and the dignity in which you conduct yourself.
It's not a patience, it's just that in the opposition we're gentlemen.
That's
like,
true.
You know.
So Mr. Bar is a prominent member of the Labour Party, as I said before, a former councilman in the city of Jerusalem, and the Secretary General of the Labour Party until probably a couple of months ago, but served under this duty for probably 6-7 years. Yeah, and also a Deputy Speaker of the Knesset. And on his agenda is very much the two-state solution. He's heading the lobby. How do you say that in English?
The two-state solution.
The two-state solution lobby.
It's the caucus for the resolution
caucus,
of the Israeli-Arab conflict.
Okay, and the caucus. I was looking for the word. Thank you for that. And a very active legislator, but you know, as the way it is in Israel those days, sits in the opposition for many years. Right now, so Mr. Bar, do you think so? We'll take it from where Mrs. Hotobelli just left. You were just coming in. She appreciated very much the fact that Gabay is consulting with rabbis, or actually bringing rabbis to open up the ceremony at the Labour conference. I mean, I have to say I didn't see that. in events that I attended, but is it something that's really happening those days?
First, thank you for inviting me. You're all very welcome to Israel. It's your home, you know, as the Deputy Speaker of the Knesset. I'm welcoming you also to visit the Knesset, which I hope you will visit. To your question, Tal, no, it's not a surprise. You're right. The last conference of the party a month ago was opened. It was before the holidays. It was opened by Rabbi Lau, son of the famous Rabbi Lau, who congratulated us for the holidays. I can tell you that there were many events that rabbis come, maybe not to General Congress of the party, but we have a religious cell organization in the party which is very active. We have many activists who wear kippahs, and even not just national religious, but even ultra-Orthodox. We have a Haredi cell, you know it, a Haredi cell, Haredi, which is ultra-Orthodox organization in the party. They recruited over 300 or 400 new members. There were always Haredis at the party, but new members. It's not something which is strange for us. Gabbai is very traditional in his faith, like myself. We have it from home, so we are not keeping all the mitzvahs like Nitzan maybe keep, but we are having a lot of respect to the Bible, to religious. This is our roots. This is the Torah, you know, which unites us as Jews. So for us, it's definitely not something new, but I'm happy that Gabbai is emphasizing it in his interviews and in the media. It's important for us to know, and it's not a big surprise for me.
So, as an expert to the Israeli-Arab conflict, I will jump right in and ask you, isn't it time that Labor will realize that the two-state solution is no longer relevant? Are you still fighting as an opposition for something that you know in your heart that is almost impossible to implement in our lifetimes?
It's two different things. If it's impossible or not, this is one question. And if we will give away this vision, it's another. We don't think that a two-state solution is dead or should be dead, mainly because we know the alternatives, okay? So we don't support the two-state solution because necessarily our dream is that the Palestinians will have a state. No, we are taking care of the future of Israel. We scanning the options and think what is best for Israel. And the three options that we are seeing is one, the two-state solution, which means respectful divorce from the Palestinian and not to continue with this very twisted and painful marriage with them. So two states, separation. The other option, the second option, is a Jewish, let's say, I don't know, dictatorship, which means we will have a state with Arab citizens that will maybe one day the majority, and they will, because demographically, unfortunately, we cannot win the Arabs in our region, okay? But then we will not give them equal rights like the Arabs have today, the 20% citizens, and then it will be a dictatorship. Some people will call it apartheid if it will happen, and we will not allow it to happen, of course, because everyone that blames Israel today that we are an apartheid state is either a liar or don't know what apartheid is. But if one day we will have an Arab majority between the river and the sea,
as citizens,
citizens, Arab citizens, which will be majority, more than 50%, and then we will not give them equal right and the most basic right to vote, then maybe people will be able to refer it from right reasons. The third option is that we will give them the right to vote, and then it will be an Arab state. Because again, I had an argument with Tzipi before about the question of demography. So Tzipi have good ideas. She say we will bring more children.
Mrs. Khotobeli.
Mrs. Khotobeli.
Yeah, I'm just trying to clarify because we have another Tzipi in the labor. Tzipi Livni.
No, Tzipi Khotobeli.
And in Israel, everybody on first name basis here, we call the Prime Minister Bibi, we call the Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister Tzipi. So, yes.
Mrs. Khotobeli, Deputy Minister Khotobeli. I asked her about demography. So she said, we will bring more children, we will make more aliyah, and of course, the birth rate will be higher. And I told her, how many children should we bring? 500 million? Because this is the amount of Muslims that surrounds Israel. And if one day they will have a majority in the parliament, in the Israeli parliament, they will be able to, for example, to change the law of Shiva, which make only Jews come back to Israel. And imagine that it will be open for everyone. Then what can I do? Maybe I don't like it, but there is much more Muslims in the Middle East than Jews. So the options are one state with equal rights to vote, and then it will become not a Jewish state, but an Arab state. The other one is to be a minority, but try to be in power because of our weapon and army, and this will be a dictatorship that I don't want to live. And the other is the two-state solution, which means separation, to keep the 20% minority of Arabs that we have, but this is not a threatening minority. And yes, we will have to give away, not to give back. Because like Tzipi, like Ms. Khotobeli, I believe that the territories of Judah and Samaria, historically, biblically, morally, belong to the Jewish people. It's the cradle of the Jewish civilization. I agree with that. I don't deny it. Nobody in the Zionist left, at least, deny it. But the question is if to hold it under any price, even losing the Jewish majority, or to give away some of the territory. By the way, not a big portion of the territory. We're talking about 22% of the West Bank, and to separate to two states, one Jewish democratic, very strong state with one of the strongest armies in the region or in the world, and one demilitarized Palestinian small state next to us. And this is the choice that we're choosing in the
And
center.
I have, two directions I want to take this. One, and maybe I'll consult with you. One, I wanted to ask you about Abbas Abu Mazen, and the other one I want to ask you about Jerusalem. So which one do you prefer?
Whatever.
So let's talk about Abu Mazen first.
Okay.
So you are one of the Israeli, probably only MKs in the last couple of years that have met with him, right?
Yes.
So Labour Party keeps in touch, or at least kept until Gabay came in touch with the leader of the Palestinian Authority.
Yes.
But recently we've heard reports that his health condition is not so good, as in is maybe becoming incapable. And the reports in Israel saying there's no one to negotiate or no one to talk with, maybe
no partner.
already, no partner. They really are coming into, to be true in the last couple of months at least. Have you heard about his health condition, or do you agree that we don't have any partner to talk to?
No.
And you know him personally, that's the reason I'm asking.
I don't agree, and I will tell you why I don't agree. First, I don't know about his health condition. I met him many times. I stopped to meet him over 2 years ago when he had the unity government with Hamas.
Last time.
Yes. I told him that I will not meet him as long as he sits with Hamas, and I will tell you why. Because not like the right wing, or the majority of the right wing, that say, we have no partner. We cannot speak with no one. No one is our partner. This is our enemies. And until they want to be nicer and more perfect, we will not meet with them. Now, I believe that we will never have a perfect partner. This is the enemy. This is the adversary. Usually, enemies are not nice partner. Okay? By the way, Anwar Sadat wasn't a perfect partner. Actually, he was much bigger and bitter enemy, with all the respect to the Palestinians than the Palestinians, and King Hussein wasn't perfect partner. And I asked Prime Minister Netanyahu one day, what do you expect? That you will find one day a Palestinian president that will be a great Zionist and will have the pictures of Ben Gurion in his office behind his desk? No. Which means that you have to acknowledge that he's the partner. Now, I, not like the right wing, I split our enemies to two main kinds. Okay? Two sorts of enemies. The first is those who want to live here next to us. And the other is those who want to live here instead of us. Okay, this is a very big division. Now, with those who want to live here next to us, we have an obligation to at least try and negotiate to peace. 2 times it succeeded, and we had peace with much bigger enemies. With those who want to live here instead of us, we will have to say very clearly, it will never, ever happen. Israel is here to stay, period.
So you agree with the Israeli cabinet from last night saying that right now there's no partner to talk to with respect to Abu Mazen sitting with Hamas in the same government?
No, I don't agree, because Abu Mazen, again, he's the head of the PA. It's like we in the Knesset, and I'm not making any comparison, but we have parties that, with the United Arab List, that is very extreme to the left and sometimes doing actions against Israel. We have the very extreme right wing who believe that all the Arabs should be going away and be transferred to other So, who is heading the Israeli government? Benjamin Netanyahu, who was elected democratically. Mahmoud Abbas, Abu Mazen, is the one who was elected to lead them. And he, as a leader, say that he understands that the two-state solution is the solution, and he's willing to negotiate, and with him we have to negotiate. Yes, it's a problem that he have Hamas in the government, and this is exactly why I didn't, I don't have to go and visit him, but it's not mean that I will stop negotiate with him. I'm not the government. The government have an obligation to speak with Abu Mazen, to sit with him. They don't have to speak with Hamas. I would advise them to not speak with Hamas because they belong to those who want to live here instead of me. They are trying to kill me. I will try to kill them first.
Just before I move on to Jerusalem, just one little question. Would you still invite member of the Palestinian parliament to the Knesset, or even Abu Mazen like you did in the past? You were trying to have them, or actually you brought them in. Is it still on the table for this Knesset?
It depends when, but definitely. I think, again, they are our enemies. I'm not have any different between my opinion and CP opinion that these are our enemies. And you need, in order to solve a conflict, to speak with your enemies. This is why we have to visit them. This is why we can invite them to speak with us. And by the way, I was the one that brought 300 young Israelis to speak with Abbas in Ramallah and to ask him questions. And when I presented him to the 300 young leaders, I said, this is the Honorable Mr. Mahmoud Abbas. He's the president of the PA, and he's our enemy. And this is why we're here to ask him tough questions and to get tough answers. And he said, no, I'm not the enemy. I want peace. But I told him, no. Until we have peace with you, you are the enemy, and it's okay. You have your interests. We have our interests. But you know what? It was an amazing session of 2 hours. We asked him the most difficult question, for example, about the denial of the Holocaust. It bothers me. As a grandson of a Holocaust survivor, of an Auschwitz camp survivor, it bothers me to hear that even my enemy is denying to the Holocaust.
I have to give it to you. It's very complicated stance that you give here, and I appreciate that. Your answers are, I think, maybe the audience could get that, are very, very complicated and nuanced. But I want to move a little bit to Jerusalem, and I know you grew up here.
No, I grew up in Tzfat, the capital of the Galilee, but in the last 20 years since the university.
Okay, my mistake. I thought you were a kid in Jerusalem. So you came here as a young student.
I made Aliyah from Tzfat to Jerusalem.
So for you, it's only one of the
used to live only in
historical biblical cities. Absolutely. At least we can have that. But in Jerusalem, you've been here for so many years. How do you feel about the city? And what do you think? I mean, Palestinians always say, without splitting the city, it's a non-starter. Is it Israeli people, Jewish people, also from the labor, keep saying this is unacceptable to us? Are you a believer that Jerusalem cannot be ever negotiating chip?
It depends how you define Jerusalem. But first I will say that I chose to live in Jerusalem. I grew up in Tzfat, which is one of the 5 holy cities of Israel, the capital of the Galilee. And I came here because I believe that we have more Jewish presence in Jerusalem. And right now we have 2/3, 1/3, and out of the 2/3, half are, let's say, secular and half are ultra-Orthodox. And I came here because I truly love the city. And by the way, in many, many ways, Jerusalem today is divided already. And you know what? Sometimes I'm blaming the right-wing government for this division because I don't believe in division.
Sometimes?
Yes, because
you sometimes blame them.
Sometimes I blame them. Because I know it's not their purpose, but their policy is dividing Jerusalem de facto. But I don't believe in dividing Jerusalem in the old traditional way, and I will tell you what I mean. First, you have to define what is Jerusalem. Is the 21 neighborhoods surround Jerusalem, like Kafar Akev and Shuafat and Bet Hanina and Isawiya and others, is this Jerusalem? No. So to give some
We're talking about suburbs, Palestine.
Yeah, in a very twisted way, we annexed pure Palestinian villages and neighborhood, not only to Israel, but to Jerusalem. And now they are Jerusalem citizens. So right now, theoretically, 1/3 of the Jerusalemites are Arabs and can vote for the mayor and for the city council, which I was proud to serve for 5 years. So theoretically, they can have mayor, deputy mayor, and 1/3 of the city councils. They are not voting from different reasons that we can speak about, but this is very twisted. Why? Because these neighborhoods are not in any way not part of Jerusalem or the historic Jerusalem. I'm not speaking only on the Jerusalem inside the wall. I'm talking about the Jerusalem that we know. None of you ever went to visit there. None of us went to visit there or even to buy their, I don't know, vegetables. We're not going to have fun in Shuafat or in Kafar Akev. It's fully populated with Arabs, and it should be part of the Palestinian Jerusalem, not because they want it, because I want to give it to them. And
but not the holy sites. I just have to wrap it up, so I just want to make sure.
So the holy sites and the holy basins, we look, in a matter of security, sovereignty, it should be under Israelis, definitely. No, 100%. We said it, I said it formally in my peace plan, which I published in 2015. I'm not saying it just because I'm here. However, we should find creative solutions to have either joint sovereignty from, not security, like civic management on places that are both of us care about, we and the Palestinians. We have it in other places in the world. I think that Jerusalem is an international city. We should open our door to Christians, to Muslims that want to come here as tourists. You know that Paris, London, even Seoul, when my friend Johnny Kim is coming from, they have 40, 50, 60 million tourists a year. We have a city, I was deputy mayor for tourism, to the mayor of Jerusalem. We have a city that 2 billion people around the world are praying every day to come and visit. 2 million people, 2 billion people, all the Christians and all the Muslims. How many citizens we have, tourists we have in Jerusalem? 3 million. Why? Let's open our gate. However, there is a difference between security, sovereignty, and joint management or joint sovereignty or civic management on some of the places. I think that there is many creative solutions. I read 40 suggestions
so, Mr. Bar,
on how to deal with Jerusalem, and the question is leadership and will, and not necessarily
I'll
the
wrap it up by
issues.
saying that I put you on the roll call with the Likud vote on the Jerusalem holy sites.
On the holy sites, yes. On many other things.
I just want to wrap it up and say thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
And giving us a very complicated vision.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice winter session that starts on Monday.
If I may, just 1 minute. I know who's the people who sits here. I know many of you, and you're truly dear friends of Israel, the Christian world, and for us it's not obvious. You know, for me and for Tal and Itzan, it's obvious when we know that Jews around the world support Israel, care for Israel, pray for Israel. It's not obvious for us to see the huge amount of love and support that you giving daily to Israel. So on behalf of the Israeli people and the Knesset, thank you very much for it. We love you, and thank you for your support. Thank you very much.